Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is the Monday mashup, and it is the final Monday mashup of the season. We have arrived at the Monday mashup for Premier League match week 38. Joining me, we've an extended panel tonight. Ted is joining us from Retrotainment. How are we doing, Ted?
Not too bad, lads. A while since I've been on here now.
Good to have you back on. As always, join us, our resident referee, Mark. How are we, Mark?
How's it going, lads?
Bobby Elvis. How are we? Also joining us from the Chelsea Roar, Ian Kelly. How are we, Ian?
Your resident linesman.
Nice. And as always, joining me, my partner on the podcast, the Dazzler himself, Mystic Mac. It's been quite a journey for us, Darren, this season. How are we?
Sure has, pal. That was a final day to beat all final days, I think, wasn't it?
It was indeed. In the words of the great Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, the road is long, but the journey will be worth it. I hope that's right next Saturday. Let's get into this. We're going to have a quick preview, or a quick review, I should say, of the Premier League results. We'll discuss some of the hot topics, and then we'll have a little chat about some interesting transfer news that has cropped up in the last day or two as a sort of a prelude to our transfer show that will be launching next week, Darren.
Yeah, at what stage are you going to remind the audience of the 50-1 winner I gave them over the weekend, Niall?
I was going to remind them on our special edition of the Beat the Bookie coming up this week, where our panel is going to be dropping bet builders, one of Ted's favorite bets this season on Beat the Bookie.
Oh, I do love bet builders.
We're all going to be doing a bet builder for the Champions League final for a bit of crack to see how it all pans out. But we will be dropping that. I mean, we've also mentioned Mark has hit it out of the park a couple of times as well. And one of our viewers, Anthony, who's been a guest on the Monday mashup before, actually dropped a nice little 25-1 winner as well in the comments on the Beat the Bookie show as well. So
he did.
We might have to get a little prize off to him, I would imagine, at some stage.
Well done, Anthony.
Yeah, hats off to Anthony.
Give that man a hat.
Yeah, absolutely. He might
even get a chopped voucher.
Might even get a T-shirt.
A chopped voucher, yeah. No, a hat would be cheaper.
If it's a chopped voucher, he's only getting it for the can of Pellegrini. That's it. Whatever it is. It ain't for the salad.
Sorry, Anthony.
Yeah. Let's go down through the results. Arsenal 5, Everton 1, Brentford 1, Leeds 2. Leeds maintaining their Premier League status. Brighton 3, West Ham 1, Burnley 1, Newcastle 2, Chelsea 2, Watford 1, Crystal Palace 1, Man United 0, Leicester 4, Southampton 1, Liverpool 3, Wolves 1, Manchester City 3, Aston Villa 2, and Norwich 0, Tottenham 5. Just before we get into the results, by the way, a friend of the show, Morris, who runs GP Productions podcast, was very unlucky as well on an €8 bet yesterday. He stood to win 4,800, and he had Leicester and Southampton to be a draw. It's the only result that let him down yesterday. So hit the bar, very unlucky yesterday with an €8 bet as well. So I thought I'd mention that, friend of the show.
But just like second place, it isn't good enough.
It wasn't a 50-1 winner I gave his lads.
Or Anthony's 25-1 winner.
Yeah.
There you go.
Sorry, Morris.
But close.
Fairness, that's unlucky.
Close.
That's unlucky.
Yeah.
Fuck me, that's unlucky. Yeah.
And that's a bit of cheap eat you're giving them there. Go easy with it.
Absolutely. Let's start, I suppose, and discuss the title race, top four, Europa League and relegation. Let's put that out there. Ted, thoughts on yesterday, how it all panned out in the end between all this stuff?
That's the biggest last day of the season I think we've ever seen, is it? You know, the top two spots still battling it out, relegation still battling it out, and top six being battled out in a dud of whoever manages not to fucking lose, and then they both lost. City really, I don't know what City were playing at in the first half. They were fucking shy.
Keeping it interesting.
Seems that way, yeah. They're absolute shite, and then came out in the second half, and well, not even in the second half, for the last 20 minutes, really, and just stepped it up. The substitutions were the correct ones. I don't think anyone would have been shouting for Gundogan to be subbed on out of all the players they have, but looks like Pep was right on the money with that one.
Funny thing about him, Ted, this season, when he has come in and played, he's been absolutely clutch for them, especially in the first half of the season. He actually in the first half of the season actually carried City at times when De Bruyne wasn't there and stuff like that. He's been outstanding. Darren?
Yeah, I had him in my fancy football early on the season. He was a point stacker. he was scoring goals all over the town and creating. And it was only in the later part of the season when De Bruyne really hit straps that we saw less and less of him. Because, I mean, with the whole midfielder, Rodri playing week to week, you've got De Bruyne, and Bernardo Silva was in such good form. He found it hard to get back into the side. But I think it was a very clever substitution from Pep. He spoke about what he needed, and it was a player to find the tempo of the game and to find the areas that could be exploited. And he's a little bit of there's a touch of the Frank Lampard's past goals about him, that he just knows when to arrive late and just make the right little appearance at the right time. And he always seems to get on the end of something, you know. Very clever footballer. Doesn't necessarily, you know, physically, I don't think he's killing himself out there, but he's a very, very savvy footballer, very clever footballer, you know. And if you've got it in the head, maybe you don't need to do it in the legs too much either.
Yeah, it's sign of a real good footballer. Mark, what did you make of the post-match? I mean, Jurgen and Pep, they were very complimentary of each other, and Pep made the point saying that, like, without Liverpool pushing them this hard, this Man City team wouldn't be as good as it is. So I thought it was nice to see both managers out giving each other the praise that they deserved.
Yeah, both of them deserve it without a doubt. And I read what Klopp, or heard what Klopp said yesterday. To win big, you have to be able to lose big as well. I thought that was a great line from him when he came out with that, because listen, like I texted yesterday, I texted you, I said, listen, these are the two best teams on the planet. There's no touching you. Whatever, you know, he's due next Saturday, he's going to be so proud of the club, what he's have achieved this season, you know. I didn't actually watch the Liverpool game, I was watching the City game. I just wanted to mention one of the other subs I thought worked really well was when he brought Sterling on for Mahrez. Because Mahrez wasn't getting anything over that right-hand side. You know, we kept trying to cut in with his left and go by Lucas Digne, but it wasn't working. And but like you could see, City were nervous. Both teams looked nervous. In particular, Olsen and goal for Villa in the first 15 minutes. But it's strange. Even when they went 1-0 down, you felt they were still in control of the game. It's like with Liverpool as well. I say when you went 1-0 down, you wouldn't have thought you were out of the game at all, you know. But yeah, it was some end of the season, like it was brilliant for a neutral anyway. I can only imagine what you were like and all the City fans as well, you know.
Yeah, elation to despair, as they say, and I spoke to Ian about it last night in the Chelsea Roar. It's the hope that killed you. In top four, didn't really become that much of an event very quickly yesterday, as Arsenal and Tottenham both posted big scores pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I suppose, look, I'm not a fan of either Tottenham or Arsenal. However, with all of the nonsense coming out of the Arsenal fans' mouths over the last few weeks and months, and how they're a special bunch, I have to say. Like, they thought it was guaranteed. You know, it was just, I have to say, I was delighted for them. I'm delighted that they'd be playing Thursday night football. And I suppose I'm an Antonio Conte man. So if I put my dislike or distaste, because I don't like to use the H word too often, but if I put my dislike or distaste, to put it mildly, aside, I'm kind of glad that Tottenham pipped Arsenal to the to top four. And as the old song and adage goes, you did it to yourself. You did. That's exactly what Arsenal had done previously. So enjoy Thursday night football, lads. London is still blue. Yeah, but you know, Chelsea are just basically another Arsenal if you look at the stats. Another great quote from the great Jose Mourinho. Using stats is just the exact word. Using stats is someone who doesn't know football. So there we go. Enjoy Thursday night football, Arsenal. Come on, the Spurs.
Darren, the Europa League situation there, at one stage you found yourself and Ted and Mark, you were down nearly in the conference. But a man that we're big fans of on this podcast all season, one Graham Potter, came up and did the business against West Ham, sealing your fate as sixth and in the Europa League.
Came up trumps, didn't he? Oh, Brighton went a goal down early on to that Mikel Antonio goal. But I think West Ham just finally hit the wall, didn't they? It was such a long season. They've had so many games. We know they have a small squad anyway. You know, week to week, it was, you could name that team most weeks. And I think it just caught up with them. I think Brighton have really hit their straps again the last few weeks and found goals a little easier to come by. and a guy who I gave a little bit of stick to a few weeks ago, has stepped up massively for them, and that's Danny Welbeck. He's scored a few goals in the last couple of weeks, and he's created a few goals as well. And I gave him a little bit of stick a few weeks ago, himself and Shane Long. I buried a pair of them. Danny obviously listened and decided, you know what, I'm going to pick this shovel up and get myself out of this hole. Shane Long has since gone on the back of a milk carton, I think. So, yeah, that's where we are with Brighton.
Shane Long's been on that milk carton for a few years, hasn't he?
He's gone MIA big time, Marky. Yeah, big time.
Well, lads, I don't know what you think. If we had went into the conference, imagine we went on and won it. We'd be the first team to win all 4 European trophies. Be a nice little stat there for you.
I'm not sure it's a stat I'd like, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Your very own quadruple, what they say, yes.
Exactly.
By the way, I just wanted to add with West Ham. I know I said like London is blue. West Ham should be very fucking proud of their achievements this season. Moyes has done an unbelievable job, and like it was a really small squad, and they played some great football. They had some great skin on their walls. With Liverpool, Chelsea, they had some great results this season, and
where I thought you were talking about Zoom was Cat.
well, that too. That was an episode in and of itself. But no, I just thought I'd throw that out there because I'm actually quite fond of West Ham, I have to say, and I think if they could add a little bit to that squad and have a little bit of strength and depth, like they're very, very threatening. They're a good team, like
and hang on to what they have. They have.
And well, obviously, I do think that Declan Rice, I think he's going to be there next year again. I think they priced him out of a move, and obviously with the year left on his contract, then it'll be interesting what happens next season then. But I do think if they hang on to what they have, I think they could really build something nice.
Yeah, what I really liked yesterday, Mark, I don't know if you've seen about David Moyes' interview post-match. He was really disappointed in the way the season had finished out. And I think that's great to see that as well, that he had set the benchmark much higher, and that he'll probably go for it again now next season and stuff like that. So
yeah, absolutely. They have the fan base there as well. They've the stadium.
Yeah.
Like you were saying about the squad, like Antonio, I think was it between October and maybe January, the goals dried up. They didn't have a kind of replacement striker there for him. I think Jared Bowen put a lot on the shoulders during that period as well with assists and goals and stuff like that. So they need to invest. They know they do, but they're a club that, like, my mom's a West Ham fan, so I've always kept an eye on them and stuff like that. They are a club that deserves to be in that part of the table, that sort of way. So, and we all know, listen, Moyes had a bad time at United. It doesn't really reflect on his managerial career, I don't think. He's a great coach, so hopefully they'll invest in the summer, and all the best for next season then.
Yeah, excellent.
I still take an awful lot of flack on a Man United for him. That Ted will probably attest to, because I always fight Moyes' corner, and I feel like he was very harshly done by United. And there's not a lot of United fans that agree with that. We get told, yeah, but he showed Ferdinand and Vidic videos of Jagielka and Stones and whatever, and you're like, so what? Like, it doesn't mean because he was showing them videos or something that he wanted them to be direct replicas. If you want somebody to play a particular kind of way, or if you want a pairing as a centre backs to set up in a particular kind of manner, you can show them what you've previously done at another club. Now, if the last two players you had in there were Jagielka and whoever else, that's who you showed them, because they've obviously played in the manner that you wanted them to. I'm sure he didn't go to Vidic and Ferdinand and say, I want you to be the next Phil Jagielka. But, that's United fans being short-sighted. And
I think it was timing as well, Dazzler, wasn't it? Listen,
it was the wrong time.
Absolutely.
Anyone who's coming into that position after Sir Alex was
Well, Mark, here's the thing. If you're 100% right, if no matter who takes that job after Ferguson, they're onto a loser. But if he doesn't take the job at that stage, he's probably been touted for the job now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he probably would have been, but like it didn't help that Ferguson won the league the year before with the same squad either. Do you know what I mean? Like if he'd come into a squad that hadn't won, because it
papering over the cracks, Ted. Because
no, there was.
Look at what happened to the squad in the preceding years. Sir Alex knew very well what he was doing. He was there for the short term. He was there to win the title. He won the title. He got his horse and he rode off into the sunset, and he dumped United. He absolutely dumped them like a hot snot.
No, that's what I mean though. Like he came in, like Moyes came in, and he got a team that everyone was like, and still to this day, people look back and go, but Ferguson won it with that team. And you're like, yeah, but that was Ferguson. No one was going to come in and win with that team. That was, if Ferguson had come fifth with that team, then, the judgment wouldn't have been as harsh on Moyes, because Moyes just wasn't able to do that. And it was just cracks that were papered over.
I think no matter who came in right after Ferguson, the very first guy that came in, I think he was going to have a tough ride anyway, because always the comparisons were going to be there, So
Poison chalice, isn't it?
Wasn't there was big talk, he went and he met Pep and stuff like that. I think Pep knew exactly what he was doing by dodging that bullet.
Yeah, absolutely.
He
He
knew
was
exactly
saying he was on a sabbatical. Remember, they met in
I'm
New
on a
York in a bar or
sabbatical,
something.
because you go in there and I think you're only onto a loser after you go in after Ferguson.
Yeah, I wonder if Pep was going in, like he probably would have been, with his previous situation, a stronger will coach to demand a bit more and maybe have a little bit more nous. So it might have worked out a bit better. But I do think, I get your point. I think anyone who went in after Fergie, you were going to get that comparison straight back directly, and it was going to be a tough task and stuff like that. But I definitely take your point. I think he got that Unai Emery treatment, really, didn't he, when you think about it? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Let's move on. Relegation. Leeds survive, Burnley go down. No disrespect to the Burnley fans of Burnley, but I'm not too disappointed in that. What's your thoughts, Ted? Leeds?
I suppose it's interesting to see Leeds stay up. They spent so long, not just in the Championship, but like when they went down the last time, they just kept going down. So they do have a long history as a club. So it is good to see a team with that history stay in the Premier League, I suppose. But I think Leeds made the right decision when they switched coach, because I think if they hadn't, they would have gone down a lot earlier in the season than this. I'm a fan of the way Bielsa played football, but like if you have a squad like that, you're not going to be able to match up and play that attacking style football against some of the teams in the Premier League. And I don't know, it was like he just didn't understand that or something. Like, as great of a coach as he is, it seemed like he either didn't understand it or refused to understand it. So
I think, Darren, we spoke about it on the podcast. I don't think it's a case where he didn't realise it. I think it was a case that he understood with the defence that he had serious problems, and he just decided that the best form of defence was attack. Darren, we spoke about the boys in the middle of that defence and stuff like that on numerous occasions. Yeah. Definitely not up to the task.
Oh, they've a very soft centre at the back, Leeds, and the boy Meslier, he's a good shot stopper, but at times, the distribution's not great. Coming for crosses, he's not great and stuff like that. He is a decent shot stopper. He's a big kid, but the spine of that team, especially when Calvin Phillips was out, you've got the centre back pair, and then you've nothing up front when Bamford was out either. Leeds have had it very, very tough this season. I think Jesse Marsh has done amazing to keep them in the league, to keep their status and stuff like that. He made them a tougher team to beat. They're still running. They're still putting in the hard yards that they were under Bielsa, but now they're a little more organised. He doesn't have them as open. They play a slightly more counter-attacking game rather than this end-to-end stuff, which leaves you open when you've got teams that are better than you. You can't afford to do that. If he was playing that style of football with a team that had, with a club that had big name players, if he was playing that with a Chelsea, with a United, with a Spurs, you may get a different outcome. But when you're going in to play that with a Leeds, and when you're drawing guys off the bench like a Sam Greenwood and a Joe Gerhardt, that's very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. And he didn't really have the players as disposable. Part of that is down to him as well, because he only wants to work with that small squad as well.
Yeah, Mark, I was going to go to you from a referee's point of view. They need to sort out their discipline, don't they? I mean, that's what's costing them week in, week out, with players getting suspended and sent off, and, injuries through this kind of, dare I say, dirty tactics that they sometimes deploy in terms of hard getting stuck in and stuff like that. What you thinking on Leeds from a discipline point of view? They topped the ratings this year as the dirtiest team, basically, from a Cards point of view, and broke the Premier League record.
Yeah, like we spoke about it last week. When you play the style they play, and you don't have the quality of player, you're going to be losing the ball. You're going to be tracking back. You're going to be making fouls here and there. So it's no surprise that they have that unfortunate kind of what is it? 90, when is it? 97?
They've
yellow?
97.
97.
yellows.
Did they get any yellows over in yesterday's game?
I didn't see.
No, because
Didn't see.
I was
Through the-
wondering if they could get
Through
over
the
100.
wonders of modern science,
Yeah.
technology.
But I will say, I agree with Dazzler. You know, if Bamford had been fit for the whole season, you know, he's 10, 12 goals guaranteed the season. You know, I wonder where
He picked up one yellow card yesterday.
One
One
Phillips
yellow,
picked
so
up
not-
one.
Calvin
90,
Phillips. That
so
was it.
98
98.
yellow cards. That's unbelievable, isn't it?
I think it's
100
90. I think it's 9. No, it's 98 in total, isn't it? It's
Oh, is it?
95
No, it's
and
not.
3, isn't it?
I thought
No,
it
it's
was
98
98
free.
yellows.
I thought it was
Yeah.
97 in total. I didn't think they had broke the 100.
Lads, that's some fine as well. Imagine paying for 98 yellow
Yeah.
cards.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, from Burnley's point of view as well, I know you and Dino wouldn't have been the biggest fan of Sean Dyche in the world, but you know, listen, with 5 games out or whatever it was to sack him, and then listen, I know they got that 2 or 3 wins after that, but just it was such a strange decision, I thought at the time, you know. And Nathan Collins yesterday, what was he doing? The young man from League Slip punching. Like, did you see the handball yesterday?
Yeah, it's
What the seriously?
And you know what? To be fair to the kids, he's been superb for them.
He has, yeah. Listen, he got his first Premier League goal there a few weeks ago. He's, like I said, he's only down the road in League Slip.
He's a guy that was touted widely to be going to United.
Yeah. When he was with Stoke, he was doing very well for them. United have gone and looked at him when he was with Stoke and stuff like
Because
that.
Darren Fletcher was involved in Stoke.
Yeah.
And he looked, and apparently on the basis of Fletcher and what was spoken about between him and Ryan Shawcross as well, that United looked at Collins. And I got to be honest, looking at him in the last few weeks, he's going to make a super addition to that Irish squad.
He is. Like, I refereed him down in the League Slip in the Indies, and you know, there's always 1 or 2 players that stand out. Never really kind of defenders, you know, that sort of way. You're always looking at the wingers, you're always looking at the strikers, but he always held his own. I always remember him and Conor Masterson, as Niall, you remember him.
Yeah.
Refereed him at Luton United, and you could always tell what quality player, even playing centre half, just reading the game, getting in the right positions at the right time, getting in front of the striker to win the ball, giving himself that extra 2 yards and stuff. So, yeah, I think he probably is one that got away, but now with them being relegated, it could be something that we could go back and look at, you know.
They stick out so easy, don't they? The quality.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder how scouts earn their money really when you can see it. It's so blatant at times, you know. Let's move on from that. That's the season in the bag anyway. So we will look forward to next season anyway. Especially for you guys. I'm sure you guys will be chomping at the bit to begin a new season.
I think we all have to say to Ted that we all laughed at you in the first episode of the season. So listen, I apologise about that, Ted.
Yeah, who was it that said Leeds were going to be in the top 6?
I probably made a call for that, did I? Because of the yellow.
I
think
Niall said Leeds and Villa.
I think Niall said Villa, definitely. I don't know if he said Leeds, but
no,
Leeds,
I think it was Leicester, wasn't it? I think it was Leicester and Leeds, I think.
Everyone had Leicester. I think you might have had Villa.
I had Leicester and Villa. I know that for certain.
I think Greg was probably the closest out of a lot of us, to be honest.
I'm way off it anyway, because I think I tip Chelsea for the title, I think I tipped Chelsea for the title. I'm not too sure. I think I did anyway. So I was way off.
You had them up there anyway.
Yeah, I 3 wrong out of 6 anyway. But
I think Greg was the closest. The only one he got wrong was Leicester. He has all the other top 6, not in the right order, but he had them all in the top 6.
Fair play. Let's move on, lads. Welcome Eric Ten Hag to Manchester. Gave his first press conference today. I don't know. Did any of you catch the press conference today at all?
No, I haven't watched it yet.
Darren, you caught it, I presume, did you?
I didn't catch all of it. I just saw a couple of little snippets from it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was coming through on the United app during the day, and then you were getting stuff from Sky Sports News or seeing stuff on social media and that. And yeah, he seems to have been well received by the fans, you know. I think he came in and there's a video of him walking around the room, meeting all the journalists and shaking hands.
Yeah.
You know, no, I don't know what words were followed by that, you know. Be careful what you're writing because I know where you're sitting type thing. Because I don't particularly think the journals have been great to United this season. Or, you know, I don't think they've there's been a lot of shit put out there, you know. Yeah. And I'm certainly not scrubbing the decks and saying that there hasn't been stuff that's gone on behind the scenes. But we know legitimately that there's been stuff put out there that was absolute bullshit. No, and I think guys were printing stuff and maybe they weren't doing their due diligence on on their where it was coming from and stuff like that. But listen, we're Man United, hated, adored, but never ignored. That's us. And even when our rivals, City and Liverpool, were tearing it up and were rewriting the football and playbook over the last couple of years, most City and Liverpool fans were still preoccupied with United, and hopefully now we get to go back where we feel our rightful place is, back up in that title picture. I don't certainly believe it'll be next season. I think it's going to take at least 3 seasons before we see any sort of a title charge. But even to see some good football, even to see the green shoots of revival, and even to see maybe a top 4. For me, next season, if we could get top 4 and play some decent football and get that squad looking a lot different than it is now, that'd be a massive step forward for me.
Yeah, I thought looking at it today, I did have a look at it because, as Darren mentioned there, like, I've endured 30 years of United at a very tough time and stuff like that. So to me, that threat never really goes away. And you've often said to me, sometimes when United are down, you have to put the foot on the head underneath the water in the swimming pool to keep it where it's at, because at any given time they can rise back up. But I did find them today during the press conference. I found them very endearing. I think there is something likable about him, but I also noticed with him as well, I'd say he's the type of guy that if he had a problem with you, get up in your grill, no problem. And I think that's kind of the dynamic that probably United needs at the moment. Mark, Steve McLaren going back in. Thoughts?
Yeah, he's obviously been there from. He's a great, like, in my opinion, he's a good coach. I know, listen to Wally with the Brolly, and he's had his time when he left with Middlesbrough. And, he went over to, wasn't it FC20 he was with, or wasn't it? Yeah. So yeah, listen, Eric must obviously knows him very well from the Dutch football. He's obviously brought Mitchell in as well as his assistant manager. So, like, I think it's a good thing because obviously he knows the club inside out. He'll obviously, he's worked with. I say a lot of people that are still in the background. I'm not talking about like players, but staff and stuff like that will all know him. So I think it's a good move. I think it's a good move from him. I watched a bit of the press conference today. Like he was saying, he seems very endearing, but I say he takes no shit at the same time. And there's talk of bringing the lads back in early from the holidays and stuff like that to get them up their fitness to where it should be for the style of football that he wants to play. So, like Dazza says, next season hopefully go. Compete for that top 4 and maybe even go on the cup run, like, try win the FA Cup in this first season, or maybe a League Cup. I know people might laugh at United fans saying go for a League Cup because of
that Europa League, especially with a Champions League spot.
That's it. Like,
that'd be a good one to target.
Get a good run in the Europa League. Unfortunately, I got excited there seeing a headline, the Europa League final in Dublin, but it's not till the year after next. So,
but don't worry, you'll probably be in it anyway, so it's no hassle. You'll be there for that one as well.
There's a good chance of that, all right, yeah.
Nice little segue here, lads. He was asked today, obviously, on the captain situation, but obviously he wouldn't say anything on it because he's not that naive. But David De Gea yesterday post-match turned around and made a comment saying, basically, anyone who doesn't want to stay here, just go. And it sounded like David De Gea, who has performed really, really well this season for you. Some would argue probably your best player between himself and Ronaldo. It's a flip of a coin, really. But it's a nice little segue into the captain situation, isn't it? Because he sounded really frustrated that he just had basically a pain in his balls with the rest of the squad, to be honest. Darren or Ted? No, I'll go Ted first. Ted?
Yeah, I think I liked that interview from De Gea. I think United have had some of it pulled. They've asked for him to retract some of it because they're claiming that there was a misunderstanding in the question and the way he phrased it because it's not his first language. But I don't think he did make a mistake. I think he was completely right. If you don't want to be at the club, fuck off, really. Like, Pogba can have all the skill in the world he wants, but he clearly doesn't want to be here. Fuck off. Lingard, same. Although not as much skill as Pogba, fuck off as well.
I got the feeling, Ted, I got the feeling from him in the interview, it wasn't about the guys who are kind of out of contract or almost out of contract. I think it was running a bit deeper than that.
Yeah, no, but I mean, those two have been very public about the fact that they don't actually want to be there. And then there's other people that maybe haven't been as public about it, but you can kind of tell that they don't want to be there. I'm sure Maguire does want to be there, but he's not good enough. Like he's not good enough to be our starting centre back, and he's definitely not good enough to be our captain. I doubt he'll be sold, but I do think the captaincy will be stripped off him, and I do think we'll see a big change in a lot of the players that are playing there. A lot of them won't be starting. They might be, on the bench, but I don't think a lot of those players will be starting. If we get the signings, that'll definitely change it. But I think you might see some youth stepping up and taking some of those positions, because if you don't have the passion and the heart to play for the club, we don't really need you there,
Yeah. Darren, thoughts?
Yeah, I think with the Maguire situation, I think he'll try and take the armband off him to free him up a little bit. I think it looks like it's something that weighs heavily on his shoulders. And I think if they can take the armband away from him and maybe get him, a run of games, a run of fitness, a run of form, and try and build a confidence, because listening to Ten Hag earlier on, he's going to try and build things differently than they have been built over the years at United, or certainly in the post Fergie years. He wants to build a team spirit. He wants to build a team that want to go out there and fight for each other. At the minute, we know that's not the case. And I think he'll need to build Maguire's confidence back up so that we can get something that resembles the Maguire that plays at times for England and played when he was at Leicester and stuff like that, which basically brought him to the dance in the first place. You know what I mean? We know he has his limitations. We know he turns like the QE2. We know he has issues, when he gets too tight and guys try to roll him. So he has got issues, but he can also be a very good defender. We saw the end of last season when he wasn't involved, how many United fans said, Jesus, we could really do Maguire in there. So, he will bring something. The armband absolutely needs to come off him, free the lad up, get him some game time, build him back up, and get him into the team. But there's massive changes afoot at United. There really is. It's going to be a change in culture. There's going to be a change in, in the ethos, and that's going to be brought in from Ten Hag and stuff like that. And, hopefully it gets us on the front foot from an early point in the season, because I don't want to see too many resemblances of what we've seen this season, because I think if you saw a couple of performances that look pretty similar, he could find the tide very, very hard to turn, And I fully support the guy. He was my choice to come in. That's who I wanted. I said all along. I think the McLaren thing's a stroke of genius, if I'm honest. And again, I know a lot of United fans won't like that, but I think McLaren's biggest issue was he was never number one, was he? He always did his best work as a number two. He's a revered coach, and he has been for years. But when he stepped up to the number one, it didn't always go that way. Obviously he won the league with 20 in Holland, beating PSV and Ajax and Feyenoord. But when a couple of teams like that have a dip, we've seen Leicester win a league title. It's not necessarily what Ranieri did. It's what those other teams didn't do.
Yeah.
But now I'm delighted he's back at the club, I have to say.
Yeah, well, definitely when I seen some of the one-liners that he dropped today when he was talking about Old Trafford and the Theatre of Dreams and all this kind of stuff, you can tell that McLaren has been in his head explaining to him that this is the route to go. This is what needs to be put out there. This is what will get you going in the race and stuff like that. So it was good to see it. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting with him coming back. Certainly it's a different level there compared to what's been there before under Ollie and certainly under Ralph. So I think, it remains to be seen how it will pan out, but it'll be interesting. I mean, I think the whole thing with United, it hinges on the board actually following through on what they've promised. If that's not the case, well, then it doesn't matter who you put in there, really, because we know the overhaul that's needed and required. So we'll remain to be seen. And I'm going to go to you with two things I want to have a chat with you about. First of all, Rudy, nice little send off yesterday for him, yeah?
100%, yeah. Deservedly so. I think, especially in the last year and a half, anyway. I think he came out. You know what? He put his balls on the line and came out and done his own video and explained his reasoning for leaving the club, which a lot of players don't actually have the respect for their club, and come out and explain their reasons for leaving. And he kind of Well, he didn't kind of actually. He blatantly put it all on Marina, saying, "Look, we were given an offer in August, and we didn't find it acceptable, and we thought maybe we can bounce back and forth between now and December. The talks in December were put on hold, and then of course the sanctions came in, and he said, look, he didn't, and the great thing about it was he didn't blatantly just blame her, so to speak, but did, if you get me.
Yeah, he kind of made the point that the sanctions weren't to make or break, that basically the shutter on the shop went down way too early in terms of the
that's
talks.
it. And he said, look, things could have been different, but I get it. Real Madrid come knocking down and you're 28 years of age and they come in with a big contract that can, fucking do a lot for his family and, his brother's his agent as well. And, it wasn't one of those Anelka jobs where the brother was being an arsehole or anything here. I think his demands were very, very reasonable, and it's just another example of the dark side of Marina, who likes to penny pinch. And I think we'll see her kind of phased out, her level of control phased out over the next 6 months to a year as well. Because when you let a player like that go, in the prime years of his career, it's not a good look, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was good to see him get the send off.
So hard to replace. Sorry, Niall.
Yeah,
so hard to replace, at that age, with the quality he has, with how good he's looked in the league. We've spoken about how difficult it is for good players to come into the league.
He's a Premier League player, isn't he? Do you know what I mean?
Premier League player.
Tailor-made for it.
He moves well. He's physically very good. He's aggressive. He's a really, really good centre-half. And they're not easy to find. There's no guarantee if you go in and do the Jules Koundé thing, or you go in and do someone else, that it works.
Well, the Jules Koundé thing it seems to be a done deal, but he's on the right hand side of the defense, so he's your Christian or Andreas Christensen replacement, which we can talk about him in a little bit. But you're looking at the boy Gvardiol from Leipzig. He's heavily linked with Chelsea now at the moment. Great looking prospect, 20 years of age, built like an absolute brick shithouse. Very good player, but at the same time, he's not I'm not looking at a signing like that as a direct replacement for Rudy, because he's 20 years of age and he's coming in trying to fill those shoes. This is a player that you're buying possibly 40 or 50 million, but you're looking at in 2 and 3 years' time of him kind of fulfilling his potential. So absolutely, I think it's the one out of Azpilicueta, Marcos Alonso and Andreas Christensen. It's the one that hurts the most when you see a player like that go. And I agree with everything Dazzler said. It's the dark side of Marina. This Jules Koundé deal could have been done last season, but for a difference of 10 million. And trying to show a set of bollocks when you don't actually have a set of bollocks. And that's not a knock on her because she's a woman. It's more so the fact that you're penny pinching for what? Because you want to look cool. You want to sign the fucking deal, because it could have really been that one signing could have been the difference this year.
Yeah, don't always act like you're spending your own money.
Do you know what I mean? Exactly. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So you got your boss's credit card and he's giving you free reign to fucking sign what you need.
She doesn't need to prove herself. We all respect her and what she's done at Chelsea. So, 100%. Every now and again you go out and splurge a little bit. You've kind of earned it with what you've saved the club.
Do you know what I mean?
Transfer market. So
this year they could have went, do you know what? Do we pay that extra? We signed Lukaku on 300 grand a week. If you could have whittled down, because Haaland was a possibility at the time. Do you say, oh, right, look, this is a younger prospect. He looks tailor-made for the league. You're getting cheaper or in and around the same price, but you've got him for longer. And you're going to pay an extra 200 grand a week, whatever. I'm just saying they're the pivotal decisions that can make or break your next 5 years, not just the immediate future. And I think that's where my battle with Marina is, as much as I love her and as much as she's done well. I think they're the crucial decisions that have actually cost Chelsea over the last, say, 10 years becoming we've allowed, and Niall, you've agreed with this in the past when I've said this. We were kind of at a level here where Liverpool were chasing Chelsea. Now it's the opposite.
Yeah,
and that has happened.
The problem is now with the levels and stuff like that, and I've said it before as well, even when you're on the top of your game, and United did it for years, even when they were so successful as well, they always brought players in, they always upgraded situations, they always went out and got the best in class. And I think with Chelsea as well, it's a fault, as you said, what they've done, because when you think about it, they've saved so much money through their youth system and the players they've brought through. There's no harm, as Darren says, in splashing a few bob to get the right guy and 100%. Close those gaps instead 100%. Of opening them up and stuff like that. Yeah, so
Liverpool did it with Van Dijk and with Alisson. They were very clever in the transfer market at times. They bought good players at good fees. For years, we've been talking about how well the Liverpool transfer situation was run. But when they needed to go out and they needed to get, as you said, the best in the business, he said, I want Van Dijk. They threw the cash at him. He said, I want Alisson. They threw the cash at him. Look at what you've had in return.
We did it with Diaz this year. Diaz was on his way to Spurs and we said, that's not happening.
But in 10 years, right, here's a question for you, right? In 10 years, Liverpool have spent 800 million, right? Now, across the board, would you say that's 800 million ill spent? I wouldn't, when you look at where we are now. Do you know what I mean?
I certainly wouldn't when you look at what we've spent and what we've won.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what I mean? Or like Man City have done it, yeah, fair enough, because they can, they can keep throwing money at the situation. But when I look at the Liverpool model and I go, right, there's 800 million well spent, and that's exactly what I think. It's like that's 800 million that's gone into the infrastructure, the stadium, the players that have come in. It's not obviously 800 million just on transfers, but you know what I mean? Everything. And you look at that and you go, that's exactly why Roma bought the club in the first place. And we were literally on the cusp of doing that. But then, as I said, Marina don't forget, Marina is responsible for your Danny Drinkwaters and your Timo Bakayokos and, a lot of these dudes, Baba Rahman and all these guys. So it's a 50-50 with Marina, great negotiator. But the problem is they got rid of Michael Emenalo, who was a fairly decent scout and a good director of football, done a good job at Monaco when he went there and showed that he wasn't just some random Nigerian guy who had one cap and, didn't know his stuff. She was given the director of football role. And that's obviously why you see Chelsea in the battle now with the likes of Paul Mitchell and stuff. And they're looking at that going, right, we need a proper director of football here. And obviously United are looking at that same thing. They're going, he's the best out there. Why don't we try and get someone in there like that can work with the coach and leave the likes of the fucking negotiating to the negotiators? You know what I mean? And I think it's amazing. Even though United finished, a good bit behind us and stuff like that, we're in the same position. I think our infrastructure, our spine is a little bit better, obviously, than United. I think you lads would agree. That's not a knock at all. I think we still have a very, very good squad. It's those little missing pieces, those missing links. And it's probably the same for United. Realistically, if you look at it too, the table doesn't show the full truth of the United situation.
It's when you're not as attractive as you used to be. You need a real strong director of football in there to put those deals and get those deals home.
Yeah.
Because otherwise what happens is you do get City coming in and getting a Julian Alvarez and getting a Haaland and getting all this. And all of a sudden that gap goes boom, 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 boom. And then before we know, we could end up with a French league.
How was the deal after January, for example, not sewn up for Kamara by either United or Chelsea? Do you know what I mean? You mentioned it this morning there, Niall.
Goes to Villa, yeah.
Like, I'll tell you why. Because we don't have a fucking director of football. Marina wouldn't have a clue who that is. United owners wouldn't have a clue who that is. Do you know
I was shocked this morning, especially with both your teams needing a decent input of players there and a decent overhaul. And a guy like him, who Darren mentioned, I think is on a free, wasn't he, Darren?
Yeah.
Just signing on fee. He's an ideal signing for both teams, really, to kick off your transfer window the right way. It just goes to show you Stevie doing the business again, you know what I mean? And tying down Coutinho as well for very little money compared to what he was sold for. So...
Well, ask me the second question there, Niall, because before you get a love in, Stevie's not the director of football and the negotiator and all that stuff.
Yeah, but he's a big reason why people might be going there.
Same reason. Yeah, no, 100%.
Well, the boy came out today and said basically the reason he went to Villa was the proposal that Gerrard put to him about the rebuild.
I know. I was only winding up Niall there because it was the same thing with Lamps. That was why Coy ended up coming to Chelsea as well. It's the same, yeah, 100%. The Gerrard effect is a big part.
The second one I wanted to share with you yesterday, I don't know if he's picked up on it yesterday. Obviously, congrats to AC Milan on winning Serie A again, and great to see them rising up again as a power somewhat. But it was mad to see the celebration. You had Ibra coming out with the bottle of champagne spraying everywhere. I think Ian, your boy, came out, he had a big cigar in his mouth and all. And but what was really touching, I thought, yesterday was out of the tunnel comes third generation Maldini. And I thought that was really, really like that was for me was like a moment in football, really, you know. He comes waddling out the tunnel there, and the Daz there and stuff like that. And I just thought it was amazing to see third generation Maldini coming out for AC Milan after winning the league. I thought it was a real moment in European football. Really.
It was amazing. It's amazing to see AC Milan back, back where, I feel they belong anyway. Do you know what I mean? I'm so happy for the boy Tomori, a player that Lampard helped make in Derby and then absolutely fucked him off last year as well. After I thought we were pretty decent at times. Don't forget Lamps done the same thing with Rudiger too. And it took an elite level coach and listen, this is sound like I'm bitching on Lampard, but I'm just being real. I love Lampard, and you boys know that. But you look at that, you know, but you look at that boy Tomori there. Like, there's Tomori, should be someone like fucking Rudiger's understudy.
I've got to be honest, and I think I mentioned it at the time. We should have looked at Tomori.
Yeah,
the kid is quality. He'll come back to the Premier League.
Is he not a ready like Dazzler, right? I'll ask you because I know you love your defense as well, and obviously being a goalkeeper and stuff like that. You're looking at Tomori there, right? And you look at that, say, three at the back. I honestly think if we get the players that Tuchel wants, he's not going to go with the three next season. Being honest, he kind of alluded to it in the press conference that he likes the kind of Klopp and Ralph system. You know what I mean? He likes the four. But if you're looking at that and Tomori's there learning beside, Thiago Silva and Rudiger, if Rudiger's gone this year, you only have to buy one player then, because Tomori's your ready-made step in, right? He's at that age where you're going, right, he's ready to go. Look, we still have the buy back option and all that on a lot of these things. They're the good deals, I suppose, that Marino made.
He's big, He's strong, he's athletic, he reads the game well. He's calm with the ball.
Fast. He's one of the fastest players in the Premier League at the time. I think when they noted down his pace. I
thought it was strange, but I know the kid wanted game time. And if you're at Chelsea and you're not getting game time, and a European superpower like AC Milan says, you know what? We'd like to give you a bit of game time. And he 100%. thinks to himself, hold on a minute, I'm going to go to AC Milan, one of the biggest clubs in world football, and I'm probably going to get to rub shoulders with one of the best centre backs of all time in Paolo Maldini. And I might even learn one or two things here. This could be a great move for me to come back in 2 or 3 years to a Liverpool, to a City, to a Chelsea, or to a United, and walk into a team and have solidified my career then. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, springboard back in, at a much higher value,
I think that's it. When I look at Guehi and Tomori, you could do a lot worse than looking at fucking. Well, now I know Guehi's buyback option doesn't kick in until next year. I don't know what the terms are with Tomori's, but you could do a lot worse than fucking saying, listen, Guardiola, you're good and all, 50 million for a 20-year-old, but I think we might put that 50 million and getting our boy back. You know what I mean? That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, no,
but to answer your question, even though I'm a Juventus man, I absolutely, you know what I mean? It's like, look, Chelsea is above all, like the way United is above all for you boys. We have our little clubs, I suppose, in European football that we have respect for, and we have a little bit of a thing for. And I'm delighted for AC Milan, I have to say. I remember they're a club that fucking, like when we talk about Real Madrid, Man United, Liverpool, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, all these kind of historic teams. I'm not even going to fuck it in the Champions League. I'm not even going to put my own team in there because I know it's modern. However, you look at AC Milan there, they are up there with the fucking best of the best in terms of when you feel,
was-
you know what I mean? You just feel nostalgia when you think
the
of
problem
Milan.
was it was that AC Milan moment that I seen that triggered me on that clown
Yeah.
Paul Merson. That's what
Yeah.
triggered me on Merson when I seen that. It was just, so
Yeah.
frustrating.
That was the last time they won it 11 years ago, was it?
Yeah.
So there's hope
Yeah.
for us yet, lads. There's hope for us yet.
You just hit the nail on the head there, Ian. And when you said the word nostalgia, because we all remember growing up as kids, Channel 4, Saturday morning and Sunday afternoon after the dinner, we had Italian football when a lot of people when we didn't even have English football on
James
the
Richardson,
at this stage, right? James Richardson and Peter Brackley, and we were watching the boys, and we used to do the newspapers and the review from the week before.
The
and
pink newspapers, lads, the best.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Outside the coffee shop.
We remember Richardson with hair. It's like Dana White. Remember when Dana White had hair?
Yeah. Joe Rogan even,
Yeah.
Well, I felt like I was reading the Gazzetta dello Sport at one stage.
Yeah.
And then obviously we grow up watching the Milan side, and it was just the nostalgia it brought back.
Yeah.
Was great.
You mentioned someone there, Niall, as well. I have to say, the two players that I grew up absolutely a lot, other than Roberto Baggio, he was my first hero, and Vialli, believe it or not, even when he was at Sampdoria. The two players from a defensive position that I absolutely idolised were Paul McGrath and Paolo Maldini. And like I still think to this day Paolo Maldini is the greatest defender of all time. I really do. And
him and Parisi together, Jesus.
And no one can tell me I'm wrong on that, because you could put him in any part of the back line and the boy just fucking done the business. Just
sensational player.
Yeah, it's like Dennis Irwin on crack.
Yeah, Mark, Ted, just wanted to go to you two. All this talk on pitch evasions and stuff like that at the moment, and the bit of violence and stuff that it's bringing at the moment, it's getting out of order. We heard today that Aston Villa goalkeeper Robin Olsen was attacked yesterday. He was assaulted coming off the pitch and stuff like that. And also 2 men were charged after Man City's match with Aston Villa as well. One, I think, was for throwing a flare onto the pitch, and the other one, I think, was related to crowd violence or something like that. I'm not too sure. But what's the solution to this, Mark? I suppose from a refereeing point of view, how does this work?
Well, it's more so the stewards, isn't it? I seen the Olsen one yesterday. The first lad hit him. Now the second lad came in and he has his arm in the air like he's taking a video or something like that. And Olsen just walks into his hand. But listen, it's not acceptable, you think in this day and age with the amount of police and security that are at the matches, you look, this is their livelihood. These players are there to play for their team, represent their club, and you get these jobs. That's all they are coming onto the pitch. You seen it with Billy Sharp last week against Forest. Your man coming over and headbutting him. He's standing there after his team or after being beaten in the semi-final of the playoffs, and he's just after getting headbutted for no reason,
Yeah.
If that's on the street, your man's arrested straight away. Listen, I know he did. He's after getting time, and I think a banning order from stadiums around England and Europe and stuff like that. But it's an absolute disgrace. Once they don't start doing it in brickfields when I'm reffing on a Saturday as well,
Yeah, the ref would often be targeted there, not so much the players. Ted, what did you make of it yesterday? I mean, the Olsen one was a weird one because Man City had just gone and clinched the title. So you would have thought lads running onto the pitch, the last thing they'd be thinking about was giving an opposition goalkeeper a clatter, for any reason. I mean, you should be celebrating. You should be euphoric with your team. You should be applauding your team. The way they won it, as we already spoke about, the end of it, with 10 minutes to go, it was still all up in the air and stuff like that and all, and they got it over the line, stuff like that. Would you not be euphoric to your team as opposed to running onto pitch and wanting to clatter some goalkeeper,
Yeah, you mentioned the flare. The flare was, I think, when it went back to 2-2, I think, is when the flare went onto the pitch. Which, some people probably don't like, and it is probably damaging to the pitch, and it could be quite dangerous. But the blue smoke going up, or whatever team you support, whatever color it is, I think it does add an atmosphere to the game. So I'm not, massively against that sort of thing. But the pitch invasion, it really shouldn't be happening. I don't know what they can do about it, because there is stewards around, but if you're a steward and 20 lads start running at you, you're not stopping 20 of them getting on the pitch. You can stop 1, maybe 2. That's The rest of them are getting by you, and that's the end of it. I don't know why you'd target the opposition, and I don't know why you'd destroy the field either. At the end of that Man City game, the fucking nets were hanging down, the crossbar was snapped in half, and you're sitting there and you're thinking, what did you accomplish? Like, go on, run over to the players, put your hand around the players that you support, and cheer with them and be delighted for your team. There's zero reason for you to be going over and hitting any other player. And we've seen it at Everton when fans ran on and your man said something to Patrick Vieira. Now listen, just because Patrick Vieira is Patrick Vieira, you don't get to go on and think I can say whatever I want to him because he's a professional athlete.
Well, he learned very quickly that you can't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're in the pub, you're not going over to some lad that looks like Patrick Vieira and giving him shit, are you? Because you know you're going to get the fucking shit kicked out of you. That lad was lucky that that's all that happened to him, because Patrick Vieira should have battered him.
I still think he was a boss the way he just went face to face with absolutely everybody, built a man down with a kick, a little leg sweep, if you like, a kick and a following leg sweep, and then just looks at everyone and walks off. I was like, do you know
that's
what?
The thing. Like, who's going to do something? Who's going to do something to Patrick Vieira? Like, he's a big old boy. You're not going over and starting to scrap with him. If he's
even Dazzler wouldn't do that, for fuck's sakes.
I suppose the fear is, and I know, Darren, you're chomping to come in here. I know you are, but I suppose I suppose the thing is that if Patrick Vieira turns around and clocks a guy and knocks him out, and a load of other fans see that, does it become an absolute melee of uncontrolledness? Where
that's why fans shouldn't be allowed on the pitch.
No, 100%. But that's where I'm coming from.
Can I just say one thing real quick on this, Dazzler? I know you're chomping. I just want to say one thing real quick. I have a tattoo of a man's on my arm, right? Dimebag Darrell, and the guitar player from Pantera, who was fucking shot in the face, and many other of the crew were shot in somewhere in Texas back in the day. Ted, you know about this. Yeah. Shot dead, performing, doing his job on stage where no fans should fucking be. And I think it's the exact same thing when it comes to football. This is their living. This is their job. You pay your money to go in and chant. You get to boo, you get to chant. It's the same as pro wrestling, it's the same as theater. You get to say what you want. It's the same as any pantomime. Within reason, of course, you get to say what you want. If you're going to be an asshole and shout racial abuse and stuff like that, then it's a different kettle of fish. But the pitch should be fucking no-go, and that is it. You know what I mean? If that was a baseball game or something in the United States, they'd be shot. And that's all I have to say about that, Dazzler. Sorry.
Yeah. No.
Go ahead,
I just have two things to throw in on here. First of all, I agree with pretty much everything that's been said. You know, when Marky said there, if you look at what they did in the Euro finals to the stewards and how they were able to overrun them. So the numbers of the stewards are going to have to be looked at massively when we get to these big end of season games, when we get to knockout ties in the championship, in the Champions League, because we know these things tend to happen after these big high profile games. So the same way that, you know, the games are escalated in the police for certain games, you know, a Merseyside derby, a Manchester derby, the game gets escalated to a higher grade of game and they send more police. The teams themselves are going to have to escalate these games and have a higher standard of stewarding to make sure that this doesn't happen, right? So that's my first point. My second point, however, is Robin Olsen needs to go and have a good fucking look at himself. He went down like he was fucking adopted by 4 Brazilians, right? He's 6'4". He came and took crosses yesterday in between 10 and 12 bodies, never flinched, threw himself in the middle of everything, right? Some fella pats him on the back, and the next fella, as Marky says, is taking a video running across the pitch, and he runs into him, and he's after been assaulted. Have a look at yourself, pal. Have a look what's in between your legs there, will you? Because you've certainly no bollocks. Fuck out.
That's not the kid from Forest now that was headbutted. Obviously, that was a different. That was
no. Just the Aston Villa goalkeeper.
I didn't see that.
Villa goalkeeper.
We don't, because we do not condone. I said it last week. Football pitch for me is a sacred place.
Yeah.
Even if United had won that league by 15 points yesterday, or nipped it in the last fucking minute of the game, I'm not on that pitch. That's fucking holy grail for me. And I said this when United fans were wrecking the stadium. I said, look, I don't know how any fan could treat their sacred place like that. That's Mecca for me. It really is.
Me too.
and I couldn't do that. But the boy Olsen, have a fucking look at yourself, pal, will you? Oh my God, that's embarrassing.
I was going to say,
It's
he should have had a look at himself after the whistle blew, but near long all the other stuff after.
I was just going to say as well, it delayed the ceremony by about half an hour, like the lifting the trophy and stuff like that. The players be dying to get out there to lift the trophy, and they're all bleeding in
course.
the change room.
But
Like,
that meant we got an extra 25 minutes of Mika Richards. So
Yeah, that was good. I did enjoy that bit.
Can I just say, this season, for me, the stars of all broadcasting is the dynamic between Roy Keane and Mika Richards. I think that has been absolutely joyful to watch.
Their videos in the car together are electric.
It's just you know what, you can tell they're mates, and same with when you see Keno and Ian Wright together and all, like Ian Wright, you know, mimicking the Irish accent and all, having the banter. It's just, yeah, brilliant. It's great stuff to look back on as well. I'm trying to. Who would have thought at the end of the season Ian is trying to bring a positive spin to something, huh?
You've no choice. You have
we've
to.
come a long way.
Imagine how I feel. I'm trying to bring a positive spin to all this.
That's because I know Dazzler owes me a ton. He wanted to go to a grand at the start of the season.
Next time, you'll have the kahunas, pal.
Here, listen, you could have something there that's maybe less. You could have some sort of piece of signature somewhere there that we don't even need to. You don't even need to send me anything. You could have a signature there.
There has to be a set of shin guards there signed by Jack Grealish or something like that. No?
I thought we were just going double our quits on next season,
No, I know you have some Dynamite Kid stuff there.
That mightn't be a bad bet if you think about it.
Nah, I know he's sitting on some Dynamite Kid stuff there. I'm not.
We're in turmoil here, Ian.
You are?
We're in turmoil here. You're not going to try to take advantage of that, pal.
Listen, if you didn't have that Dynamite Kid stuff there, I'd be game ball.
Wait, now hang on.
Either way, that Dynamite Kid stuff won't be leaving the gaff like so.
Has Darren called double or quits on this bet? Has he?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, Ian. That's it. The bet's already being called double or quits. Yeah, you can't say no when that happens. You have to say it from the outset. No double or quits.
Well, do you know what? As a fan of Roadhouse, yeah, as a fan of old school 80s movies, and you know, putting your money where your mouth is, and not being a pussy. Let's do it, baby.
Yes,
that's getting clipped for TikTok so we don't forget.
Yeah, let's do it, Dazzler. And only because I love you, but I'm into it. I'm into it.
Let's finish.
We'll finish joint fourth next year. Watch.
Then it goes to goal difference. Then goals for
head
then
head.
A playoff.
Head to head. Yeah.
Then yourself and Darren in a pill competition or something.
Well, do you know what? I think if that happens, me and Dazzler might just put the 200 brick into a fucking pot and we just go out and get absolutely pissed.
Yeah,
you could play a tennis match.
Oh, Jesus Christ, man.
On the way.
Mailback is at me, Dazzler. They have to be giving me a few lessons before.
Let's finish up with some quick transfer news. Liverpool confirmed today the signing of Fabio Carvalho. Darren, I know this is a guy you've looked at. Sensational in the championship last season. And probably a snip of 5 million.
An absolute bargain. Again, this is an Andy Robertson type fee, isn't it? This is in the silly fee category, I have to say.
Yeah.
I know they've leveraged it with a couple of performance related bonuses and stuff where
2.7.
Yeah, so it could get up to almost 8, but I mean, like, even at 8, this is chicken feed. This kid's a smashing footballer. He's again a very, very intelligent footballer. He's a footballer that I think will fit into that Klopp mold, that Klopp style of play. He can play anywhere across the front three. If you go to a 2, he can play as the 10. He sees an awful lot. He's got great vision. He's comfortable on the ball. He dribbles well. He can finish. If I'm a Liverpool fan, today's a good day.
But you know what? It's the smart fucking business from having a director of football with a vision. Because I'll tell you why. If he comes up to the Premier League next year, say a Wolves buy him because he's Portuguese. We just assume Wolves and Portuguese players. Everyone's going. Yeah. Say a Wolves buy him for that fee, right? And he has the season that he might have with Wolves next season. You're talking 30, 40 million then the following season.
Absolutely.
So it's great vision. It's great.
Actually, you know what? You're probably talking bare minimum 30 to 40.
Bare minimum, yeah.
Because at that age, at 21, there's a massive possibility of having a huge sell-on value after a couple of
100%.
years.
100%. So I mean, again, it's just great. I think I think United, Mark, just a quick one there. You probably agree, like what I was saying there, in terms of how Chelsea and United are kind of in the same boat in terms of having to get someone with the vision of seeing these players, you know what I mean, and getting these kind of deals. I think Liverpool is, as much as it pains me to say it, but they are the model that we need to be looking at. You know what I mean? They really are.
I was saying it to Niall before we came on. I've watched a lot of them this season, and Daz, I know you have as well. But like in September, he was injured for 3 weeks. The end of September into October, Mitrovic's goals dried up for them a few weeks, and then he came back into the squad. And they bet Preston 7-0.
That's true. That's true. I remember that game. I remember that game, actually.
Everyone talks about Mitrovic's goals, but his movement off the ball is second to none. He obviously started with Benfica, and he came over here. He was playing in the Southern, or came over to England, so the Southern Combined Counties League. He moved over to England to start off at the lowest level possible to get a move. Obviously, Fulham picked him up. I think it's an excellent bit of business. And like you were saying, Niall, earlier, even with Diaz, that was just unbelievable from his as well, you know. So I think he'll do really well. Hopefully, he won't be another Shaqiri and not get a chance, you know, that sort of way. So,
but here's the thing. You know, if he was another Shaqiri, that if he couldn't get the minutes under his belt, they still get 20 million from all day long.
Yeah,
every
absolutely.
Day. Great business. It's great business.
But for him, after watching him for the season, I hope that God he does get minutes because he's unbelievable.
I actually wouldn't be surprised if they were to loan him back out. I think.
Yeah, I think that.
I'd be very surprised if they didn't loan him back out to Fulham as part of the deal and give him a year in the Premier League
before.
Or get him to Wolves.
Or Wolves, absolutely. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd be very surprised. Depends what their plan is for him, of course, and stuff like that. We spoke about Kamara already, lads, and how both your clubs kind of dropped the ball maybe on that with him going to Villa. Manuel Neuer for the goalkeepers on the show. Manuel Neuer re-signed for Bayern Munich. I think that was a given anyway. I don't think he was going to go anywhere else. He's been an absolute brilliant servant for the club and an absolutely outstanding goalkeeper. Absolutely.
I've been getting some abuse from German Bayern Munich fans on the old Chelsea Roar Twitter there. It's been great fun actually, just because it was the anniversary of us beating them in their backyard. They're still a bit salty about it. So it was very, very funny.
Yeah. Lads, United boys here, obviously Cavani, his exit was confirmed today. What did you make of yesterday? Don't let the door hit you on the way out. I would imagine that was shocking yesterday.
I had something written down, Niall. This must be you, Nagy, Mark and Dazzler and Ted. If Cavani had been in that Chelsea squad this year, what do you think?
He just sat on the bench and waited to play for Uruguay, same as he did for us. He's mercenary. That's all he is.
Do you not think he would have scored more goals than Lukaku?
No, because he would have been on the bench the whole time.
I do.
I think you could have brought Chris Woodney to score more goals than fucking Lukaku.
And who's Unagi? Is he another player? New signing, is he?
That's Friends. Apparently, it's a quote from Friends. Unagi means like.
No, but that's we paid him this season to play for Uruguay. That was it.
Yeah, it was very yesterday getting onto the bus was quiet, and I know fans were probably giving him shit. And in fairness, in this case, it's probably deservedly so. But he left with a kind of a better taste there, really, didn't he? With the way
he did. And the previous year, he was damn near revered. Like Darren can attest to it on like the forums and stuff. People loved him. You know, he'd come on, he'd show that passion, and for his age, he'd run around until he injured himself, and everyone loved him. And then
actually scored some really important goals in that push for second place.
That goal against Spurs, a diving header and all. Do you remember?
Yeah, and then this year he was just like, I'll sit here till I get onto the pitch for Uruguay, then I'll travel off, then I'll have to stay quarantined for a couple of weeks after playing for Uruguay, then I'll claim I picked up an injury in training and I'll sit on the bench for another while. Didn't do himself any favours.
The only thing I'll say about yesterday is I saw a video of him. I saw a video of him with the fans in Selhurst Park, and the United fans gave him a really good reception. Now, as he gets on the bus, obviously, he throws the finger out, but there's no video to suggest that it's definitely a United fan. Do you know what I mean? Like, typically outside of Old Trafford, where the away bus would be, it wouldn't be away fans because the away fans get led away from the ground.
Yeah.
It's home fans that would stay around where the buses are.
Yeah.
So
I suppose it depends what way they corral them and stuff like that. Yeah,
but there's a good possibility it was a Crystal Palace fan that he was giving the finger to. But the narrative is he's now giving it to a United fan, you know?
Or it could be Ten Hag in the crowd giving them abuse. You never know.
Ralph. Ralph got off the bus and he was standing behind the railing looking to get a few boots signed up or something like that. Yeah. Tchouaméni, as if my day yesterday wasn't bad enough, then news came through apparently from Tchouaméni's agent that apparently he had decided that Real Madrid was going to be where he was going to go. It comes out today now that apparently he has a kind of an equal agreement with both clubs, Liverpool and Real Madrid. And from the sounds of this, it looks like he's going to end up at the team that ends up winning the Champions League. But it looks like that could be part of the prize, looking at the narrative today.
Do you know what annoys me about this, Niall, too? Sorry to fucking, if you're going to cry about it, didn't want to say it last night, but I have no sympathy. Liverpool came in last minute for him. This was always a Chelsea-Real Madrid thing. He could have been signed last year for Chelsea, again, another Marina one, for fucking 40 million. There was actually an agreement in place for 40 million for him to sign. And again, didn't pull the trigger. Now, I don't know whether that was because the last 6'2" midfielder from France that Marina bought from fucking Monaco happened to be Timo Bakayoko. But again, it's another case of Liverpool thinking, yeah, everyone wants to play for us.
But you didn't want to hear me crying about it. Now you've just started crying about it.
Oh no, 100%. Yeah, but we're sanctioned. We can't fucking sign anyone. We can't even sign a tea lady, man. Do you know what I mean? It's like we can't even replace the tea lady at the moment.
It's true. It's damn true.
By the way, just a quick update from BBC News there. By the way, UK government have given the green light within the next 24 hours for the sale. So there we go.
Very good. Last one I want to finish on was
Tchouaméni to Chelsea.
Last one I wanted to finish on was Christian Eriksen. He's a guy that we've kind of delighted in terms of his comeback and stuff like that. And hats off to Brentford for taking that leap, as well as him taking that leap with Brentford as well. He was asked, he's obviously out of contract in the summer. It was a 1-year deal. He was asked about what his thoughts are going into the future. And he made the point that Brentford were in the conversation, but he made the point that I suppose now that he's had a half a season or a season under his belt and he's played and everything has kind of worked out somewhat, that he probably feels that he might want to take the next step now up into higher level football there to maybe chase a bit of silverware was what he was speaking about and stuff like that.
I heard United linked with him today, actually, funnily enough. I was unlucky to be, that's one of the season highlights, but I was unlucky to be at the Brentford-Chelsea game at Stamford Bridge, as we all know. And
I was at the Liverpool United game at Old Trafford, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, he tore us a new arsehole in that game. To be fair, scored a goal. His passing was exquisite. Yeah, Dazzler. At least we get to suffer together, I guess, at the end.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, Jesus H Christ, lads, him at United under Ten Hag.
Yeah, but he wants to win silverware, Yeah,
well, listen, I'm not doubting his next year. In fairness, even though I was confident to do the double or nothing. That was kind of just my AEW brain kicking in, and then I went, shit, I backed the wrong horse.
I would assume Darren, as hard as the season has been, he probably would have a better opportunity of winning silverware at United than he would at Brentford. No disrespect to Brentford.
No, not at all. I'm delighted we're part of the conversation, if I'm honest. I think he's a player we could really utilise. We struggle to create chances at times at United and get service in the box, and the kind of delivery he brings from set pieces and stuff like that. And obviously on the ball, he sets a great tempo and stuff like that. If I'm honest though, I'd be shocked if he doesn't end up back at Spurs. Absolutely shocked. I think
did he play with Conte actually, Dazzler?
Conte took him to Inter.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'll be shocked if he doesn't go back to Spurs, being that he's been at Spurs before, being that he's had this accident, being that he was signed by Conte at Inter Milan. All the stars were aligning I'd be shocked if he doesn't end up there, I have to say.
There's a part of me that's afraid though for him. Do you know what I mean? Just because it was so horrific, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you know, I think it's always going to be there in the back of everyone's mind. Every time, you know, you see him go down on a pitch, everyone's going to think, is he all right?
Remember your boy with
Brandon Williams.
Brandon Williams.
Yeah. I spoke to Mark about it. He was about to deck him, and then he went, "Oh, sorry, it's already."
There's actually a good interview. Choose off Soccer AM interviewed him, and if you get a chance to watch it live, it's actually really good. But I take him in a heartbeat. Imagine him whipping balls into Ronaldo next season, him and Bruno and all in midfield. But I agree with that. I can see him going to Spurs. If anything.
and Nunez possibly in there up at the front line for you.
Yeah, the thing about it is,
Liverpool as well. Apparently,
he's going where?
You told us he was going to Liverpool.
I did. No, I told you Liverpool were linked with him, but sure. What player out there in Europe wouldn't want to be linked with Liverpool at the moment? Doesn't it bump your price?
No, that's the Liverpool echo that fucking links everyone with Liverpool.
It's the whole British
Echo
media.
the Dolphins. Remember we used to have that in the Sega Mega Drive? It's Echo the fucking Dolphins.
Oh man, Jesus. Yeah, Liverpool TV is BBC, BT Sport, and Sky.
And the Chelsea Roar, because he's on that.
You'll see that tomorrow.
The
Chelsea Roar.
Ian ain't asked me back on anymore now. I'm the character of his show.
I love you too much not to.
Yeah.
Just stop.
I just thought I'd bring up Bergson. It's an interesting one. There's a couple of others there. Obviously, Origi's heading off to AC Milan, so we wish him well.
No news there.
I think the big one is Mbappe, is it not?
Ted,
I already
adding an hour to the show now.
I already spoke about that on Ian's show last night. I don't think I can bring myself to put in another 20 minutes.
We actually went in balls deep on that last night.
We went that deep, Ted. We barely climbed out of it. That's how deep we went on it. It's bewildering, really. You know?
I can't talk about it either. By the way, I will say one thing. His statement today was absolutely laughable on Twitter, apologizing to the Real Madrid fans. Like, this guy is absolutely numbnuts.
This is when the Champions League draw comes out now, and we want PSG and Real Madrid to potentially draw each other. You know, maybe they'll carve up the pigs again and throw the heads out onto the pitch.
Imagine that pitch invasion.
Can we get Eric Cantona and Patrick Vieira playing for Real Madrid on that game, please? I would like that.
Yeah, no, interesting. I'm sure that will it'll be interesting to see how that potential investigation goes.
Well, I love that Madrid came out and, you know, made the complaint of he used us to broker a better deal. Is that not what all the Madrid players do every fucking year?
Ramos.
I'm going to sign for United. I'm going to sign for United. New contract.
Different.
I'm going to sign for Chelsea. New contract.
Darren, I picked up on it yesterday, like Darren did. La Liga were more upset than Real Madrid were. It was crazy.
La Liga are heavily involved in a lot of the transfers coming in now Spain, because they see themselves as a product, and maybe a little more than some of the other leagues.
100%.
And, you know, we've seen that. We've seen teams have to go to the La Liga offices. We've seen when United had to go and buy out the contract of Ander Herrera and stuff like that. We saw solicitors going to lodge a bid with the La Liga board and stuff like that. I think this will rumble on, if I'm honest. I think, you know, I don't know necessarily if there's going to be a breach of contract, but I think they're going to try and really throw Mbappe under the bus for this.
Well, there has to be an investigation into PSG with all of this, without a shadow of a doubt. There has to be, like, you know what I mean?
And I mean, the thoughts, and if what we hear is true, and he's been given, you
everything,
know, carte blanche to go and choose a sporting director, to choose who he wants on the side, to choose what socks they wear on an away trip, like, that's a new level of fuck uppery, even for PSG. Like, well, it really is.
Well, what happens when, like, one of the greatest that the game has ever seen, both in a managerial standpoint and, you know, on the pitch, when Zidane tells him, like, no, you're playing left wing today. Oh, well, I want to play right wing. But does that mean the manager gets sacked? That undermines then the squad. It undermines everything that comes before it. Does that mean that Ramos sticks up for his boy then and goes, fuck you, you dickhead, I'm out of here? Like, and on top of that, how do they sign a Romelu Lukaku, who they're being heavily linked with? How do they sign a Hakim Ziyech? How do they sign a Paul Pogba, who they're still being linked with? Like, and they're active, like, and their owners on Twitter are going, yeah, we're going to keep going and going. He came out
Well,
today and goes, yeah, we're going to keep going.
As I said to you yesterday, I mean, I'm not a trained accountant, but the maths just don't add up.
No,
The maths
no.
just do not
And
add up.
And I said it on my own show, and these are my thoughts and my thoughts alone. You can say what you want about the Russian oil, the tycoons and all that came in here. I've said it before. The Middle Eastern money is fucking dangerous money in football. And it's very, very dangerous. We're seeing it with Newcastle now. We're seeing it with obviously Man City. But above all, we're seeing it with PSG. And lads, people are afraid to say it because they're afraid of the fucking, the cancel culture here. It's fucking wrong.
Yeah, I love the quote, Mark, where they turned around and said the deal makes the, it pales in comparison. Like it makes the Super League look like a joke, really, when you look at this deal that's come out on Mbappe. Like,
it's ridiculous. I seen the demands. Football is dead, lads. Football is officially dead. Like, when he's coming out and saying that, picking the sport and director, this, that, and the other, like, would you get a life? You're a footballer. Leave that to the lads in the suits and let them get on with it. And now you're all and shut your mouth.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't see where he goes from there. It's a 3-year contract, and I agree. Yeah, I concur as well. Where does he go from here? Like, so Real Madrid will never sign him now, obviously. Barcelona, I don't think any La Liga team will touch him. So what happens when the 3-year contract is up? Does that mean it goes to $1.5 million a week?
Well, he's in charge, so he'll sign himself.
Yeah.
He has ultimate power. He'll just sign himself to $6 million a week. What are they going to do about it? They've given him all this mental power. It's insane.
Imagine him sitting in on the board meeting. He's sitting there and he goes, I've been watching League One and I've seen this guy Mbappe. He's incredible. I think you should sign him. He's out of contract in 6 months. You know what I mean? It's just, it beggars belief, really, doesn't it? And as Ian is saying, like, where does he go after 3 years? So where can he go? So who's going to afford him?
It's not even the money that's the issue, though. It's all the other stuff that he's been given. Because if
who's
going to
want to touch him, though? Who's going to want to touch him?
But Ted, the core of it is the money. The money is just pure filthy.
No, the money is insane. But like, no team's going to touch him because he's not going to leave a club where he has all like that amount of power over the club to go to another club where he doesn't have the power. So the money isn't really the big issue as to why no club's going to touch him. No club's going to touch him because nobody else is going to be stupid enough to give him that much power over them.
Exactly. And the thing about it is, if you think about it, right, we've Messi, who supposedly loved Barcelona and put on by the way, Messi should give Amber Heard fucking, acting lessons with that fucking little debauchery and absolute nonsense that he done with his little crying game, yeah.
You're walking out crying as you're cuddling all those Ballon d'Ors.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I love Barcelona.
I love that day he was crying, and then the next day he was lying on his lawn with his big dog and his kids, and he had all the Ballon d'Ors laid out like it was a mattress on a bed or something.
But now you've Messi, right, on what, 600, 700 grand a week. You've Neymar, who I'm sure is not that far behind. Now you've this fucking jabroni on $1 million, right? And then they're talking about bringing in Pogba, Lukaku.
Don't be surprised as well if in the contracts for Messi and Neymar, they have clauses like what Wayne Rooney used to have, saying that you're going to be brought up to the highest earner as well. So maybe the whole idea of this Mbappe thing was to look after his boys as well, and they're all going to shoot up to that.
And by the way, it's probably written in the contract as well. The board meeting. Imagine the board meeting next year. Yeah. It's going to be all the boys around with the suits and their kits, just going, "Yeah, no, that doesn't work."
The board meeting will be down in the dressing room. They won't need the board.
In the words of the great Hulk Hogan, "Nah, that doesn't work for me, brother."
For Zidane to survive, he'll have to put his boots and his shorts back on.
He's gonna need to grow a mustache and be like, that doesn't work for me, brother. Sounds great, but it doesn't work for me. I don't know who it is. Who's this Hakim Ziyech guy? Nah.
They don't even need to bring in like a big manager or Zidane now. They could just bring in a fan off the ground, and he could just stand there as the manager while the boys just decide what they want to do. And
well, Leonardo got the marching orders, didn't he? Leonardo got the marching orders straight away. So I think
that was on the cards from the Tuchel era anyway, wasn't it? In fairness.
Yeah. To be fair, but still, like it's.
I wouldn't pin his exit on Mbappe in any way, but I'd say that was long coming.
No. Great footballer though.
Yeah. Well, listen, lads, it's been a pleasure. It's been a hell of a season. I'd like to thank all our viewers and subscribers and all you guys for contributing throughout the year. It's been a hell of a ride so far. Just 1 week to go now. Hopefully, in Champions League and Paris and all that kind of good stuff.
Come on, Madrid.
We'll see what happens. No need for that.
Every need.
We shall see. Until next time, at the _upper_tier on Twitter, the Upper Tier Podcast at gmail.com if you want to contact us. Audio shows, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, as always, with Darren with the clips. He loves promoting Fred out there. You should be Fred's agent at this stage, shouldn't you? You should be getting a percentage at this stage.
He is.
You need to get Mbappe's agent. Well, Mbappe's probably his own agent, so it doesn't matter at this stage.
Mbappe doesn't have parents. He's his own man, dad, and everything.
Yeah.
He's just
absolutely. But that's where you'll find us. As always, we will be dropping shows throughout this week. A preview for the Champions League coming up on the Shankly Sessions. Ian will be dropping content on the Chelsea Roar. Ted, what's going on Retrotainment? What's coming up?
Top Gun will be out on Thursday. Retrotainment recast of Top Gun in honor of the upcoming sequel.
I tell you, the trailer for the sequel is the business.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
the best fucking. And you know what? Kenny Loggins better be on the fucking soundtrack. That's all I'm saying. Playing with the boys, volleyball, baby.
And we won't even. It's another podcast for us saying, what's Tom Cruise doing that he hasn't aged a day nearly since the first one?
Nothing. He's just a fucking great man.
He has Mbappe looking after his financial affairs, so he's all right.
Way clear of Amber Heard.
Yeah, I'd say in fairness, if we dug into Scientology deep enough, I think it'd make Mbappe look like a good guy. I'm just saying. But until next time, lads, a pleasure. Talk to you soon.